This view, it may look beautiful to you. To me, it reminds me of how long we have been gone. I barely recognize this landscape. I grew up here when it was called the Broodlands. I used to tend a life shrine so many years ago. And then we left to help safeguard the mortals. The reason I am here looking over this alien landscape is because for such a long time I dreamed about returning here. This is my home. I never expected we would be gone for so long. After a while, I never expected to return. You can probably remember where you grew up, can smell your parents cooking, can remember playing with your friends who lived close by. Now imagine that you've forgotten how to get to your childhood home. You can never visit again, can never walk the paths of your childhood. 10,000 years. I can barely believe it's been that long since we left. You can't imagine how awful that time was. The fear that surrounded us, the sundering, the betrayal of the Black Dragonflight, the Dragon Wars. The Dragon Wars. You may call it something different, but I was there, and that's what I call it. All the Dragonflights versus the Black Dragonflight. You would think it would be an easy fight. 4 versus 1 after all, even with the Demon Soul. The Blue Flight was nearly destroyed in Neltharion's initial strike, so 3-1, but still great odds. Until you realize what it was like. You only know Neltharion as Deathwing, and his brood as mad evil beings. We knew them before they fell. This wasn't some unknown menace. This wasn't some great evil looming like the Legion was. These were our friends, our loved ones. It was awful not knowing what was going on, thinking there was something you could do to snap them out of it. They were my friends, and they were killing my brothers and sisters. I had many friends in that Dragonflight, some as close as clutchmates. Growing up, we used to play pranks on the elders. I remember one time we coated Alexstrasza's tail in honey while she slept, and what does it matter? My best friend was of the Black Dragonflight. We intermingled a lot back in those days, not like now, where most flights keep to themselves. Isn't it funny? I can't remember her name. I can remember her face. I can remember how the light bounced off of her beautiful scales. But I can't remember her name. I can remember the horror when I came home to find her standing over the bodies of my family. Practically her family. I can remember the gut-wrenching despair as I plunged my claw into her throat, and I remember the hate in her eyes as the light went out in them. But I can't remember her name. I've always wondered, if I had been a better friend, could I have prevented it? Did she not feel like she could come to me as she felt the corruption starting? Abyssian was cleansed. There must have been something I could have done. But she didn't come to me. She must have felt she couldn't talk to me about it. If I was a better friend, if I had only told her. Oh, Titans, if I'd told her how I felt, could it have gone differently? I loved her, and I can't remember her name.